Hello, the Curious You. Welcome to the fourth episode of the Curious You podcast. And thank you so much for still being here. We are still babies together, but we are growing slowly and steadily. And that makes me so happy. These days, I have been spending a lot of time on my own because I felt that was exactly what I needed. Just some time listening to my favorite podcasts, reading my book, and walking around. I have reached a point where these grounded moments are my favorite thing in the whole world. Just being by myself and being connected to something bigger, like a phone on a charger. And this is what I want to talk to you about today: faith in something bigger than us. I believe this is such an integral part of the self development journey that one without the other just doesn't work. So, let's start exploring the most mysterious topic of all time together. So, what is faith? I'd say faith is the invisible thread that connects us to something greater. Whether that's God, the universe, energy, or even the logic of science. Some people find faith in religion, which is a deep belief in divine purpose and spiritual truth, while others can find faith in, for example, energy, the flow of life, intuition, and the interconnectedness of all things. At the same time, others trust in science, which, as we know, is the process of discovering truth through evidence and reason. But at its core, faith, in my opinion, is not tied to one system. It's about trusting in something beyond our control, whether seen or unseen. And generally, it's what keeps us grounded when life gets shaky and what gives us the strength to keep moving forward even when we can't see the full picture. I grew up in India, a place where faith is everywhere. On one street, you'll see a temple full of people praying to Ganesha or Krishna, their gods. But then you turn the corner and someone is lighting incense for their ancestors. Others meditate, believe in karma, or carry stones for energy healing. Mosques call to prayer, churches open their doors on Sundays, and someone else finds peace just watching the sunrise. But what always fascinated me is that everyone believes in something. Call it what you want: God, gods, energy, the universe, science. But the fact is that there's this shared, deep rooted need to trust, to feel like we're held, guided, connected, and that's even when we can't see the full picture. My father has always been a deeply religious man. And when I was younger, I leaned much more towards science than spirituality. And I remember having a very passionate debate with my father about who was right. And one day he said something that has literally stayed with me ever since. He looked at me and said, "The older you get, the more you'll find yourself turning toward the unseen. Because one day you'll realize it makes life a little easier." And I've always believed in something, but I could never quite explain what that something was. So it was easier to rely on logic and science. But still, deep down, I knew I was protected. I had this sort of unshakable feeling that no matter the situation, everything would be okay. I just knew it. And most of the time, I made decisions from the heart, from intuition. And logic, it was rarely my go to. Well, that is until I became a mom. You see, that was when everything turned upside down. I hit the lowest lows and I experienced the highest highs. And suddenly, I found myself leaning into logic more than ever before because now I was responsible for someone else. And that was when I realized I needed to make sense of everything. I felt a deep urge to believe in something bigger than myself, and not just occasionally, but to really connect and to live in that belief. It was time to have a hard, honest conversation with myself, and I had to stop equating responsibility with only logical decision making. Because deep down, I knew that the more responsibility we carry, the more we need to stay connected to something greater than us. And that was the beginning of my journey, a journey of, let's say, reconnecting to faith, to intuition, to the unseen. And through meditation, reading, trusting my inner voice again, and seeing daily synchronicities, I trained my mind to notice magic again. And guess what? That is exactly what started happening. But let me tell you a story about the beginning of my book, The Curious Crew Explores Sleep. If you don't know what it is, check out my Instagram. It's a children's book that explains what happens in our bodies while we sleep. It's fun, it's educational, and it's designed for little ones. But as the book was being illustrated, I wanted to build a website and get some photos taken for it. So I contacted a few photographers in my hometown, but none of them felt quite right. I knew I wanted something special, even though I didn't know what that was. And then one day, my best friend gave me the number of a photographer she had previously worked with. And she said, Nina, you just have to reach out to him. And when your best friend says that, you listen. So I did, but without any expectations. A few days later, he replied. And he said he'd be honored to be a part of the project, but that he was currently on a spiritual retreat in Thailand for the next 6 months. But now here's the wild part. This was November 2024. And in December 2024, my husband and I had already booked a trip to, yep, Thailand. And I stared at that message in disbelief. A photographer from my small hometown doing a spiritual retreat halfway across the world, right where I was about to be. At first, I hesitated to ask if he'd do the shoot in Thailand. I didn't want to interrupt his retreat, but with a little encouragement from my husband, I reached out. And guess what? He said yes. Now, if you've ever been on a retreat, you know you usually can't leave the premises. But this man literally went above and beyond. He even contacted the local king, yes, the king, to request a day off. And just a few days later, he got permission to leave the retreat from, I think it was 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. So on December 10th, 2024, my husband and I rented a car and drove to a little city called Chantaburi. It's just a 3 hour drive from Bangkok, and we drove there for the photo shoot. But let me rewind a bit. Ever since I started doing things that light me up, like writing children's books and sharing stories I feel called to tell, things have just sort of aligned. Moments of pure magic started showing up. I mean, a Bosnian photographer, a spiritual retreat in Thailand, and our paths crossing in that exact moment, that's not coincidence to me. And that day, during the shoot, we didn't just take photos. We talked about faith, about life, about all the things I'd been exploring these past few years. He shared his wisdom, stories of monks, of meditation, and spiritual experiences that felt almost otherworldly. And by the time we said goodbye, we knew we'd formed a lifelong connection. He was just one of those people you meet and never forget. And he helped make the beginning of the Curious Crew something truly magical. Synchronicity, to me, is when things just click in a way that's hard to explain. It's like the universe is giving you little signs or moments when everything aligns in a way that feels too perfect to be random. It's when you meet someone at the exact right time, or when something happens that feels like more than just chance. And you can't always put it into words, but you feel it. And it's those moments when you just know there's something bigger at play, something that's guiding you and reminding you that you're exactly where you're meant to be. And let's just say that after that, things were never the same. And logic, well, logic became my old, long lost friend, evidently. I found myself leaning into the magical and into the mysterious. I didn't just believe in something bigger, but I felt it every single day. I turned to it every day, and in doing so, I knew I was being guided. You see, this journey eventually led me to attend a retreat of my own this past February. That was where I met another man who changed my life for the better, and his name is Joe Dispenza. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but if you haven't, trust me, you should. He's the first person to connect all those mysterious, magical things with science. A man who showed that these two worlds, science and spirituality, aren't separate, but actually exist in harmony. Mind blown. I mean, for centuries, people have either believed in religion or in science. But now, here's this guy telling us that it doesn't have to be divided, that they can work together. I mean, that was a game changer. And I just knew I had to check him out. Right before the retreat weekend, my entire family came down with a stomach virus. And the night before we were supposed to leave, let's just say my husband and I didn't exactly sleep like babies. But the next morning, we woke up and we just knew we were going. We weren't going to miss this for anything. Grandma was there, the kids were well taken care of, and it was finally our turn to take care of ourselves. So I didn't have huge expectations for the retreat, especially since my body was still sort of recovering. Honestly, I was wondering how I was going to sit through 12 hours of listening to this man talk. But I just knew I had to be there and I couldn't miss it. It was 8 a.m. on a Saturday in Basel, Switzerland, when we arrived to meet Joe Dispenza, together with 8,000 people from all over the world. And everyone was hyped up, dancing at 8 a.m. and just talking to each other. The energy was already out of this world. And then he came, and let me tell you this, from the moment he started talking to the moment he stopped, I didn't blink. I laughed, I cried, I meditated, and I felt things I never felt before. You see, Joe Dispenza teaches you that everything you need is already inside of you. This means that faith in whichever form, God or energy, can essentially be thought of as the same as it's already inside of you. Your job is only to learn how to access it, how to access your own power, which is connected to the universe. And the universe, in science terms, is called the quantum field. And let me tell you, this is not voodoo. This has all been proven by science. You see, his teachings intertwine concepts from neuroscience, quantum physics, and spirituality to explore how faith and consciousness can influence our reality. So he describes the quantum field as an invisible realm of energy and information that exists beyond the physical world. What this means and what he suggests is that by aligning our thoughts and emotions, we can interact with this field to manifest desired outcomes. This process, of course, involves entering a meditative state where one becomes nobody, no one, no thing, nowhere, and no time. So, in his framework, faith is more than belief. It's literally a state of being that aligns with the energy of the quantum field. So, he emphasizes that the quantum field responds not to our desires, but to who we are being. So, therefore, what this means in practice is that embodying the feelings associated with our goals, such as, I don't know, gratitude or love, can influence the field to bring corresponding experiences. In layman's terms, this means that if we want something in life, we have to become it before it even happens. Your body can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. And your internal environment is reflected in your cell's external environment. So, if you feel love within yourself, even when your external circumstances say otherwise, your cells will keep vibrating with that love. And over time, that energy will shift your circumstances for the better. I don't know about you, but this has happened to me so many times before, but I never realized it was a real thing. For example, I remember when I was a student in Moscow, I was craving to meet people from all over the world. I wanted to live in a smaller, more international city, somewhere full of energy with people from all walks of life, and I just wanted to have fun, a lot of fun. And I remember revisiting that feeling in my mind every single day. I remember literally feeling the new version of Nina before she even existed. And then guess what? It happened. What was once just a thought in my head became my reality. And I'm sure this has happened to you too. And now you know it's scientifically proven your thoughts and emotions are that powerful. And honestly, I feel like attending Joe's course should be a mandatory part of every school curriculum. I mean, no one teaches us how incredibly powerful our thoughts are. No one tells us that everything we need is already inside of us and that we can create our lives however we choose. Instead, in today's society, we mostly hear you have to do this because of this, and that keeps us stuck in the system, in the normal. So today, I leave you with two big questions you can ask yourself to revisit your connection with fate. Ask yourself, when was the last time I felt a deep sense of connection to something bigger than myself? Ask yourself, how would my life change if I trusted my intuition more than my fear? And generally, ask yourself, how can I invite more magic into my life? And then just watch what happens. And I promise you, life does get better. Life gets more interesting. And I can tell you with full confidence, there is something bigger than us. And no matter what path you're on, having that faith truly makes it all easier. My dad was absolutely right. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for being curious. Until next Friday. Kisses!